This Sports Blitz podcast is brought to you by LMG. Grow your business through logo design, paper products, and video production. Visit leemarketing.net to learn more.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sportscall. Brett Pritchard and Andy Graham here with you till 6 o'clock, and we'll take your calls after this segment. But we want to go to the Tiger Communications hotline and in the Sports Call hotline update segment and welcome in former Auburn basketball player Pat Burke. Pat, you there with us?
I am, War Eagle.
War Eagle to you, Pat. Good to hear from you, my man. And you spent your time on the Plains as the center for the Auburn basketball team from 93 until 97. And, Pat, I just got to get your take. First of all, let everybody out there know what's going on in your life. Give them a quick update on what Pat Burke's up to.
Wow, a quick update. Well, after playing for 12 years professionally, just like most people, I kind of figured out, what am I going to do next? And I dabbled in a little bit of sportscasting. Of course, I was up on the Plains in 2011 doing the radio for the Auburn basketball, the men's team, which was a wonderful experience getting back to the Auburn family. And then I had a different calling. I had a friend of mine actually ask me, do I train kids? And his sons were very interested in training in basketball. And my comment to him was, kids aren't going to listen to me. And he talked me into it. And I took two young men and went into my backyard. And within a month, it was about 20 kids. And it was something special about it because it wasn't just sharing in the basketball experience. It was sharing in life. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I opened up a training facility in my town that I live in now, Mount Dora. It's where my wife is from. We met at Auburn, Peyton. And we opened up a training facility called Hoops, Pat Burke's Training Facility. And it's just been a blessing. It's been a lot of fun working with kids. And I would say it's become more than basketball. We've got a wonderful program that I'd love to tell you about called Hoops Life, and it's all about supporting and assisting youth.
Well, Pat, that's great, and anytime you can get out there and help the youth of America excel and give them hope and have dreams fulfilled, that's what it's all about. And you, as a former college and professional basketball player, you had a great career in the NBA and over in Europe as well. I know that is rewarding for you to be able to give back.
Well, it is. It all stemmed. It's funny because my road was not in my early childhood was not leading to the NBA. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. My family came over from Ireland, and when I was 4 years old, that's why I don't have an Irish accent, and I actually started playing ice hockey for 8 years, and something happened in my life that changed it, and of course it was a growth spurt. And at that moment, my mom and dad said, listen, you better find something else because we're not paying for all this equipment. It's expensive. So I went over and I tried basketball, and it was very unsuccessful at it. It didn't take on, the idea that just because I was 6'7" as a sophomore, I wasn't some all-star. And what happened was the first time I tried out for a team was in Ohio, and I remember before the very first game, my coach went through, and all the players were lined up, and he went down the line, told everybody what their position was, what their role was going to be, and I was the last guy in line. And when he got to me, he stopped and just had his hand out, and all the guys started laughing. And I can still remember that moment of just humiliation and feeling bad. And I knew, not to act out, but I knew that this man was not a leader. That he wasn't, the right man for the job. And we've all had coaches or seen coaches like this. My family had planned to move from Ohio down to Florida midway through my sophomore year, so I already had that break, which I was relieved. I thought basketball was out of my life. And I met a new coach when I came into my new school down in Cape Coral, Florida, a gentleman named Marty Waters. And he had an approach that I take on with the kids now, and it was one of an introduction. There was support and assistance where he introduced me to the guys and said, this is Pat, and, he played ice hockey, and he tells me he wants to play. And if we help him, he'll help us. And it's going to be tough, but he said he's committed. And not until I was done, of course, with my years at Auburn and playing 12 years professionally, did I even realize that without that man in my life, I wouldn't have done what I did. And, my years were always, your best years are ahead of you. Even when I was at Auburn, I just got off the ice a couple of years prior. And I look back now and I see what he's done, and it inspired me to do the same thing. As a youth, I didn't have a lot of support in my life. And, when I opened up this hoops program, we had a young man who came in here. And I naively thought that when I was doing training that I was going to be working with the apex of athletes. I had all the equipment getting ready for, top-notch. And I had a young man who was about 13 years old, and he came in here, started training with us, wasn't a basketball background. He was something similar to myself at 16, and we were going through a drill, and he broke down crying and couldn't breathe. And I remember we settled him down, and he told us that, he was done. He was done with life. He was ready to call it quits. And, of course, we called in his parents, and we talked and got him back on track. And that's when I realized, and I talked to the staff here, that this is not about basketball. This is something greater than that. This is about kids coming in for acceptance, for confidence, for leadership skills, for support. And that's when we created a program called Hoops Life, which is a 12-week season in which we introduce life skills. And everybody talks about life skills. And what are life skills? Well, we go through everything from an agreement that holds kids accountable to their actions to the rules they create from respect, communication, emotional management, and then we introduce every week something new in a workbook that maybe they have it in their life and maybe they don't. But the transformation in 12 weeks it's phenomenal. Parents are very excited about it. We've gotten some looks from overseas. Actually, with my background in Ireland, I've had a group come out here and talking about bringing it over to Ireland. As far as I don't know anybody who's doing this as in depth as we're doing. I'm very excited about what it's been doing for the kids and what it does for a community. As far as bringing back some of that old school principles of getting kids to understand their approach and their actions. And I know I keep talking about it, but the idea would be that if a team is like a family, then your family is also like a team, whether that is, at school or, in your household, and your approach on what you do in your life, it takes actions to, affect the other people, whether it's, picking up after yourself at your house, or it's doing your homework, or if it's on the basketball court, if it's, the idea that, 5 guys have to get back on defense as fast as they can. And with one person, whether they're belly aching or complaining or they're not focused, they have an effect. And that's been a really simple method of teaching these kids and them getting it really quick.
Well, Pat, that sounds like a tremendous program and very interesting stuff there, and I'm glad you elaborated on that because, there's so many – I think we all would be shocked at how many kids have a very similar story to yours, whether it is a positive story where they found somebody that really propelled them on to do something positive and made a difference in their life, or had a negative impact that sent them down a spiraling path out of control and maybe led to something traumatic down the line. So, we all don't realize sometimes how much we can impact a kid's life, whether it be positive with something we say reinforcing or something we say off the cuff that may be taken negatively. So I'm proud to hear of what you're doing with that program and what you're doing, because I remember reading a book about Shaquille O'Neal, a very similar story with him and Coach Brown. I know Michael Jordan was cut from his junior high basketball team, was told he'd never play. It's amazing how many people out there are quick to tell somebody how they're not going to be able to do anything.
That's so true. And again, is, children in the simplest form of their emotion is that they're linked into something. They're always attached with, looking good, whether it's feeling good or feeling safe. And when they lash out or anything, it's something in one of those realms is what's creating it. And when we can talk about those topics, you've created a very positive platform where kids can actually admit to what's going on. I don't like the idea of my shot getting blocked. I don't like the idea of not having, the right shirt on, or, I don't like the way it feels that I'm hurting when I'm running on the court, so I'm going to quit. Or I don't like the way it feels to not feel safe, playing with bigger players, or whether it's at school. And when we have had the opportunity to figure these things out with conversations with each one of our players, the next step is for them to realize that if they can release these attachments, then they're actually playing as a team. They become, more solid. They actually become leaders, and it becomes less about them and more about the ability to identify their approach in being a team. And again, I know that it sounds foreign when I'm speaking this, but it's really neat to see kids really figure it out. And when they do, it's special. And again, as I look back and what I didn't have and all the things I was attached to, and I wish that I had something similar to what we've created here in the Orlando area, because I think that it's powerful. And it's not just for basketball players. I mean, basketball really is the hook to get kids to have fun, and it's really the thing that of course, it's the vehicle that lets them see what it is we're actually teaching.
We've got Pat Burke on the phone with us, former Auburn Tiger and former professional basketball star. Pat, let's shift gears for a second and talk about your career at Auburn. First of all, how did you get to Auburn? And then I want your take on this current Auburn program, and do you get a chance to follow them and keep up with them on a regular basis?
Great questions. When I got over to Cape Coral, I told you, earlier that I was 6'7" as a sophomore, and I kept growing. And I got my senior year, I was 6'11", and I had a lot of potential. And I can remember back then I didn't have post moves. I didn't have the up and unders, and I did have a soft touch on shooting the ball, and I had my Irish spirit. I mean I've always had that. And so it was a little late in the game when people started, coming in and recruiting me. And I remember I went out my visit to Auburn, and it was just, as soon as I got there, I knew it. I just knew it. I said, this is the place. This is it. Tommy Joe Eagles was the coach, and God bless him. God rest his soul. He was a great man. He taught me a lot of things. He was a believer. He kept telling me, you can make it if you want it. And I still have his voice in my head. And I remember, going in that very first year, I redshirted. I was 6'11", and my goodness, I probably wasn't too far over 200 pounds. And I remember there was a gentleman there, and if our listeners are Auburn basketball fans, they'll remember the name Aaron Swinson. Aaron Swinson was like the second coming of Charles Barkley, but in a more, a little thinner physique, all muscle. And he was 6'4". And I remember I was so naive to think that I was coming in and I was going to start just because I was taller. And I tell you, Aaron Swinson probably dunked on me 6 to 10 times every practice, and there was nothing I could do with a 6'4", just athletic, unbelievable player. And he's a good friend of mine now, of course. And it's been great to reflect back on those moments. And he's told me, he couldn't believe all the things that have happened since. But the Auburn experience was, of course, it created a lot of character. I love every moment we've had. I mean, we had great memories from, I was reflecting on it a couple of days ago with somebody about Christmas break, that when the students are all gone and it's really the basketball teams kind of take over the campus and there's not really many people moving. And, you're really creating your own atmosphere at the games because our attendance was, a little bit low during the break. But there were a lot of fun times, a lot of really good memories, good trips, good guys, of course. And, so that was that. And then, now I have not had a big following in the program itself right now. When Tony Barbie came in, I just so excited about the way that his staff reached out to former Auburn players and got them back in. And I think that was huge because, he was building a sense of pride for the program. And something that, it wasn't there before. There wasn't a lot of former players coming back and sharing in their experience with the younger guys, which I believe a lot of programs do, and it does a lot. A lot of mentoring goes on, of course, between veteran experience and guys who had been there. And, I know that the Auburn Plains, it's a tough place to play, dealing with everything from the success of the football team and the other programs, and that you really have to create a signature of your own, and then start a following from the beginning. So I know that program it's working itself. I know the arena is a great addition to it, but I think that it's still on one of those moments where they need that one or two players to come in and believe in what's going on there, and then then we have what happened in, what would that have been, 1998, when you had Chris Porter and Mamadou Ndiaye, Damian Fishback, and all those guys who were just they just set the campus on fire with the basketball program just being like top in the nation, and that's something that I of course, as an Auburn Tiger, you want that to get back there, and you want it to stay there for a long time.
Well, Pat, we appreciate your take on this current year, and appreciate what you do for the youth out there, and your Auburn spirit, and we're glad that you took some time out to be on the program this afternoon, and look forward to having you on again soon. Okay.
I appreciate all the time, and to all the people listening, War Eagle, of course, nothing but love for Auburn University. Can't wait to get back there, and proud of everybody, proud of the football team and everything they've done, they accomplished, and what a great spirit those guys exuded over, everything that we've seen in the media from their relationship with their coach and everything. And just proud to be an Auburn Tiger.
Pat, War Eagle to you. Appreciate you being on the program. That's
Thank
Pat.
You, sir.
Thank you, and that's former Auburn center Pat Burke. Great stuff there. Awesome interview there from the former Auburn Tiger. We're up against the break. We'll come back. We'll take your call. Stay tuned. More of the Tuesday edition of Sports Call right after this.